Welcome to the podcast. Today we have James Campbell, Managing Director of Botswana Diamonds. Thanks for coming on. How are you today?
I'm very good, Abraham, and welcome from a very hot South Africa.
Great. Well, for listeners who don't already know, could you tell us a little bit about the company and how 2018 has progressed so far?
Okay, Botswana Diamonds PLC is a London AIM and Gaborone, Botswana listed diamond explorer and developer. And we're focused very much on Southern Africa, the countries being Botswana, South Africa, and Zimbabwe, which are all covered by a unit called the Kaapvaal Craton. We believe Southern Africa to be the most prospective diamond destination in the world. It is certainly one of the world's largest current producers. And due to a legacy of very limited diamond exploration, particularly in Zimbabwe and in South Africa, we feel it is also one of the most prospective areas in the world too as well.
Great. And you said geology does not follow any political boundaries, and that's why your focus is on the Kaapvaal Craton. Is that right? Are you focused on any other areas?
No, we're focused firmly on the Kaapvaal Craton, and that's exactly right, Abraham, is that geology does not follow political boundaries. So we're looking for the primary host rock of diamonds, which are kimberlites, and kimberlites are straddled all the way across Southern Africa between those particular countries. Botswana at the one end is low political risk. People consider this to be the Switzerland of Africa. Very clear tenure, very clear taxation rules, very clear transition from prospecting through to mining. And then, of course, at the other end of the political risk continuum, you have Zimbabwe, which is just opening up for business, where we have a joint venture with Vast Resources. And then in the middle, you have South Africa, which has transitioned very successfully to democracy post-94. And then probably more importantly for us and for our current investors is the smooth transition from Jacob Zuma to Cyril Ramaphosa. And the new cabinet he brings has begun to make South Africa a much more attractive destination for investment. And this is why we're also very active in South Africa through our venture partner, Vitomi Mining Pty Limited.
Right. Excellent. And I'm not sure if you heard in the news recently, Zimbabwe's government may consider allowing foreign investors to hold a controlling stake in diamond mines. What do you think about this?
No, Abraham, I did read this in the newspaper. And in fact, I was in Zimbabwe about 3 weeks ago on the ground on what is known as the Heritage Concession within the Marangi Diamond Fields. I walked the ground along with Vast Resources geologists and team, along with the representative, the chief of the local community. So we're very optimistic that one of those four companies will be our partner, Vast Resources PLC, which we're partnered with. And one of the reasons why we believe this is that Vast's predecessor was African Consolidated Resources, which was one of the original discoverers of the Marangi diamond field. And under the ownership of Vast, it also has at least 3 gold mines in the country. And they've been working very closely with the current government and the current communities in order to bring about a model which is sustainable for both the company and, of course, the communities and in the areas in which we work.
Great. So it looks like it could be very positive for you.
We believe so, and we're thrilled to be partnered with Vast because they have deep knowledge of the country itself, and we've got a fantastic geologist who's working with us and starting the work there. But we're not just looking at the Marangi diamond fields, which some would consider notorious, but we're one of the first set of public companies to go back there. And of course, we run it as a public company, so there's full disclosure. There is a very professional approach to diamond exploration and development. But we're also interested in many of the primary deposits or kimberlites, which have been underexplored or non-explored for at least the past 20 or 30 years. In fact, that's fairly similar to the reason why we went back into South Africa, is that there was a very large hiatus of nobody exploring for kimberlite in South Africa for various geopolitical reasons.
And those geopolitical reasons on the ground, do you sense that it manifests itself while you're around and exploring, or do you feel like that it's sort of blown out of proportion and there's actually exciting prospects to come?
Are we referring to Zimbabwe or South Africa, Abraham?
In Zimbabwe.
Well, certainly when I flew into Zimbabwe, I arrived at the international airport, I drove to the project site. I spent 3 days on the project site walking there. Like any other project, whether it be Botswana, South Africa, or elsewhere actually in Africa, stayed in a magnificent hotel which would fit anywhere in the world, frankly, as such, and ate wonderful food and drank some wonderful wine. So I'm incredibly optimistic that with the new leadership in Zimbabwe, there is a real drive to open up the country to foreign direct investment. And with the historical links between Zimbabwe and Britain, and vast resources and Botswana Diamonds PLC being London-listed companies, we anticipate a long and strong future there.
Oh, right. And in South Africa then, they recently had a revised mining charter. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes, there was a lot of concern last year in terms of a draft mining charter was put to the industry itself. It had very high black economic empowerment considerations. It had very large number of provisions, and it was highly complicated. And one of the things the new mining minister has brought in, Gwede Mantashe, who has a deep and long history in mining, which gives great comfort to people like myself who have also had a deep and long history in mining, that it's actually a lot more pragmatic and a lot more sensible. And one of the key clauses actually for us as a prospector is the waiving of black economic empowerment for prospecting companies. And that, as we know, is when you make an investment in a prospecting or exploration company, it's a very high-risk investment. It doesn't employ very many people, and it tends to be smaller amounts of money. However, the black economic empowerment requirements continue at a reasonable level when you go into mining. I have no issue with that. But what also gives me great comfort is that I was very fortunate to be able to make a representation to the Deputy Minister of Mines, who interestingly was the National Union of Mine Workers shop steward at Finch Mine some 20 years ago when I was an underground geologist. Of course, I knew him, but he didn't particularly know me. And I made a representation on waiving these black economic empowerment rights. And I hope that my contribution was one of many which enabled that change, which contributes to a stronger investment climate in the area of exploration.
Mm. And you've been presenting at a number of conferences over the year in 2018. Do you have any plan for 2019?
Well, in fact, there are 3 main conferences one actually focuses on in Southern Africa. There, of course, is the Cape Town Mining Indaba, which takes place at the beginning of February in Cape Town, which is probably the second largest mining event in the world. And it's a great place to meet local investors, offshore investors, because frankly, there's nowhere nicer to be than Cape Town during the course of February. And my friends and colleagues in the Northern Hemisphere certainly agree with that.
Yeah.
In the middle of the year, there is the Junior Mining Indaba, which is in Johannesburg, focused particularly on junior companies, because often when you go into a larger mining conference and you have all the majors, the requirements and for a junior are somewhat different from the requirements for major, notwithstanding the fact that we're both actually exploring and mining, but financing and technology and other things can be actually quite different. And then the third one is the African Mining Summit, and I was very fortunate to be able to chair the interministerial panel this year with ministers of mines from Botswana, Zimbabwe, Sierra Leone, Ghana, and elsewhere. That was held in Gaborone this year. And I intend very much to hopefully chair a session there and certainly make a contribution in terms of the general debate and discussion.
Outstanding. Is there anything in particular then you're excited for in 2019? Obviously, besides the conferences and the plans for the company?
Yes, there are. I think if one looks at 2018 in perspective, 2018, we raised a relatively small amount of money in March, and we've delivered everything that we said we would deliver. In fact, a lot more during the course of 2018. So that set us up for a very interesting 2019. And if I could just briefly touch on a couple of points there. If I firstly start with Botswana, we've made considerable progress in terms of concluding a prospectus on the Maibri joint venture, and that will allow the project to move forward and allow BCL to exit from the project and allow us and our new joint venture partners, whoever they happen to be, to progress this very exciting diamond find. And then in the Sunland Minerals joint venture, we recently announced the exit of Alrosa. But at the same time as that, we announced that we are on an advanced stage of bringing in another major producer to replace them. So I hope we can bed that down and get on with some exciting exploration, particularly in the Kalahari of Botswana. And then moving into South Africa, we've got two major areas of focus in South Africa. The first one, which is probably the flagship project of Botswana Diamonds, is called Thorny River. And there we've engaged with a mining company to mine and bulk sample the kimberlite dikes there and have it processed at a nearby plant. And Botswana Diamonds, through its subsidiary Vatomi Mining, takes 15% of the revenue of this. This is a good thing for two reasons. Firstly, it starts to generate cash for the companies involved in the prospecting. It allows the companies to eventually become self-funding. And then thirdly, and actually very importantly, and I think was often missed by the media, is it allows us to deliver a resource at very little cost, if any. And then secondly, if one jumps to the Free State area of South Africa, we rediscovered a number of kimberlite pipes which were last mined in the 1880s and 1890s and essentially stopped mining when Cecil John Rhodes consolidated the Kimberley diamond fields at that time. And we've gone back in there. We found that nothing has really been done on those projects since that particular time. And looking through the lens of new technology, we hope to be able to make a commercial discovery. Certainly all the work that we've done during the course of this year and last year have progressed those projects down the diamond exploration pipeline. And then moving into Zimbabwe, we started off at Zimbabwe with our discussion. We certainly hope to progress the heritage concession in the Marangi diamond fields to firstly geological mapping, then drilling, and then through to bulk sampling. And then, of course, getting stuck into exploring and developing other kimberlites across the whole of Zimbabwe. So I think we've got a great package of work spanning the resource pipeline, and importantly for a diamond junior, beginning to generate some cash and also to declare a maiden resource.
So it seems a lot of progress been made last year in this 2018, and it set you up quite well for next year then.
Absolutely. No, we're very excited about the possibilities next year. I've already remarked that Botswana is a great place to work. South Africa is becoming an increasingly better place to work. Zimbabwe is opening up for business. So with the confluence of reducing political risk, particularly in Zimbabwe and South Africa, and the projects which we have on the table, and importantly, bearing in mind that there aren't many companies who are exploring for diamonds in Zimbabwe and South Africa. We essentially have first mover advantage in those two countries. But of course, Botswana, where the political risk is much lower, there are a number of companies, London listed and Toronto listed companies exploring for diamonds.
Could you give us, as always, 3 reasons why investors should follow Botswana Diamonds and add them to their Vox Markets watch list?
Of course, Abraham. The first reason is diamonds were the fastest growing commodity post the global financial crisis. And with just under half the diamonds in the world being sold between Thanksgiving and Christmas in the United States. The initial indications are that this particular season is going to be a bumper season. Secondly, Southern Africa is the most prolific area for diamond production and diamond prospectivity in the world itself. And then thirdly, Botswana Diamonds has a unique portfolio across those three different countries and first mover advantage to take these particular projects from discovery through to commercial production.
Well, James, thank you for that. It was great talking today. I'm sure we'll be hearing more from you in 2019 and in the near future. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you very much indeed for having me, Abraham, and all the very best.